Hi, I'm Jessica Beha, and I am with Great Rivers Regional System for Addiction Care, and I am one of the prevention education specialists. And today we are going to do another This Is My Story, and we have Jennie with us today. And so we are going to turn this over to Jennie. Jennie is with WAVAR, and she can tell you what that means and who she works with. But Jennie is also going to tell her story. And so we have the privilege of working with Jennie as one of our community partners, not just with WAVAR, but also with the Glow Run for Recovery and some other events that Jennie has done. And so Jennie, we want to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for telling your story. And so we're going to turn it over to you and let you tell your story.
Well, thanks for having me. I have been allergic to drugs since forever. I wasn't allowed to have caffeine or chocolate when I was a child because I was really sensitive to it, and I would have some one day and not have it the next day, and I would have intense withdrawal symptoms just from caffeine. So that includes migraines and throwing up. Everything you can think of about detoxing from a substance was happening to me really young. I think now scientists would know, doctors might know, like if something like that is happening with a child, that they may be susceptible and have substance use disorder diagnosed earlier. But for me, I was not diagnosed with it until late in life, until I reached a bottom, a spiritual and emotional bottom. So the first time I was introduced to substances, I was 18 years old. I had a kidney infection. I was hospitalized for a week. I was given narcotics. I was given a narcotic prescription when I went home. And as soon as I showed it to my friends, they were like, well, you're doing it wrong if you're just taking it. Let me show you how to do it. So I was introduced to medications and that kind of thing really early in life. So immediately, just like everyone says, you feel a sense of connectedness and like that I was cooler than everyone. And I thought that this was the answer for me. I had always suffered from anxiety. Even as a small child, anxiety, the average age of onset is 8, and I had it way before that. I can tell you that I was having anxious behaviors probably that I can remember as early as kindergarten and first grade. My parents fought constantly. I had an older brother that had died, and they both blamed each other for his death. So there was not a lot of marital harmony. My mom actually ended up leaving for good when I was 14 years old. So I was the only person in my high school. I went to Winfield High School, and I felt like I was the only person in my high school without a mother at home. So I ended up taking on a lot of those roles really early on. I was going, to the grocery store and grocery shopping. I was cooking dinner, running the dishwasher, maintaining the household, those kinds of things. So I took on a lot of responsibility really young. And when I moved away to college, I felt that my drug use was enhancing my ability to get things done. And the truth is, it was just driving me further into the ground, but I didn't realize it. So I was addicted pretty much as soon as I picked up my first drink, also 18 years old. It went from never having had a drink before to drinking a fifth of liquor a day pretty quickly. And if I didn't have it, I would shake. I knew that I would shake probably by the time I was 19 years old. I knew if I didn't have alcohol that I was sick the next day. I was having intense hangovers, all those kinds of things that should have, been a light bulb, moment that it's like, this is something that's really wrong with me. My college roommate actually ended up in jail. We lost our apartment because she was underage drinking and driving. She was put into Alcoholics Anonymous by the court system and got sober right away. She tried to carry a message to me then. I was not hearing it. I continued to work in the restaurant business for years and years as a cocktail waitress and put myself through school. So I did finish school. I never took a class that was before noon because I knew I would have a hangover. And I wouldn't be able to make it to class, but I was a straight A student. So I was on the dean's list every semester. I am a college graduate. So luckily, my disease didn't keep me from achieving some things in my life. I have a degree, a BA in art, so I'm a talented artist as well as a person in long-term recovery now. You know, I actually got a job in the field right after school. You know, the first interview I went on, I kept that job for 4 years. I mean, I've been like that my entire adult life. You know, maybe you should get this job, and here's an interview, and I just went for it and kept it for a long time. And while I was at that job, I got a boyfriend that was obviously probably the wrong crowd. You know, we were in a near fatal car accident, and he ended up hospitalized in a coma for a month. When he got out, of course, he had broken his back and scalped himself and all these things. When he got out, he was prescribed narcotic medication. And so that was pretty much the end for me. It wasn't fun and games anymore. It wasn't drinking on the weekends or anything like that. I mean, it was full on opiate addiction. And, you know, when the prescriptions ran out and his doctors wouldn't prescribe anymore because they started cracking down on pill mills and things like that, then it was buying them off the streets. And it was my money. I was working, he was not. And so it was my money. So I definitely felt like I deserved, you know, half of everything. So we spiraled together over the course of a couple of years. We went from prescribed pain pills to buying pain pills to heroin and to IV heroin use and actually selling heroin. So I am really, really blessed and lucky that I do not have a criminal record. I ended up, when we had a bust, you know, a chance to get clean is what I call it. We had a chance to get clean and I took it. I was not in jail. I don't know why I wasn't in jail. I'm just really grateful for the opportunity that I had to go to rehab. I actually took it. I went to, you know, just a local 28-day program, and they taught me to go to 12-step meetings, and they taught me about my disease, and they taught me that it was a disease and not a moral failing. And I'm really grateful for that, that I know the science behind, I mean, we got to watch videos in rehab, and like, I know the science behind it, that this is a disease. And so I know to treat it. So when I got out, I did things that were suggested. I got a sponsor, I got a home group. I started going to 12-step meetings every single day. You know, I'm not going to say it worked perfectly my first year clean. I made a lot of mistakes. I again picked the wrong guy, not physically abusive this time, but emotionally abusive. I think it's important to talk about the fact that most of women in recovery are recovering not only from addiction, but also from a physical abusive situation or a traumatizing, you know, abusive relationship, because those are toxic relationships. They're never work out well. A lot of the time, even the early recovery relationships do not work out well because our picker is broken and we don't pick the right guy. So for me, it took a lot for me to change inside. So when I came into the rooms, I was spiritually broken. I was selfish. I was self-centered. I had a lot of, you know, bad behaviors. Like I stole things from stores, and I lied about things and manipulated, and really had a huge ego and didn't want anyone to see any of my flaws. I didn't want to be vulnerable. So I didn't love myself in any way. Fast forward, I worked all 12 steps with a sponsor. I was able to get a job. Luckily, my first year clean, I was hired to be a peer recovery coach. I was able to then reach out a helping hand and help people as I had been helped and teach them the things that had worked for me. So I was so grateful to have that job. I had it for 2 years. I had probably like literally thousands of clients because I met people inside detoxes and inside psychiatric wards. I would meet, you know, 15, 20 people at a time. I would tell them my story. I would tell them what had helped me. Some of them would reach out. Most did not reach out, but I would connect them to services. So I was able to do that for a long time. And I actually experienced burnout in that job because I'm an empath. And for me, what that means is that I absorb other people's energy. And there was a lot of negative energy that I was surrounded by all the time. And, you know, that the organization had trouble keeping staff. So I was like in different roles all the time and just, you know, stretching myself thin. And eventually it led to me quitting. Like, I actually just decided I'd had enough, and just like a series of things happened, and I chose to quit my job and go to yoga every single day instead. And it was probably the best thing I've ever done for myself. I do not recommend it today to any sponsee. If you're going to quit your job, you better have another job before you quit. But I ended up taking time on unemployment and really bettering myself. So I went to yoga consistently for 120 days straight. Even the days it was closed on Christmas, I still did, I did yoga on my sister's floor in front of her Christmas tree. So in the process of going to yoga classes, I learned to slow my mind. I learned to focus on my breath. I learned to meditate, because we meditate at the end of every yoga class. I met some amazing people that have moved me forward in my life. One of them gave me a job and just believed in me and poured love into me. And she was very motherly, and I needed that. I didn't have a mother in my life. And so she just, adopted me basically. And the love that was poured into me, I was able then to pour into other people. So the process of self-love has been long. It has not always been easy. I've had to do things like develop discipline. Having a spiritual ritual in my life is not an easy thing. There's lots and lots of people, even in recovery, that don't have a strict spiritual ritual. I always suggest it. I think it's super important to stay connected. What we need to develop in our life more than anything is acceptance of our life and our disease the way that it is, and of ourselves exactly as we are, and as others exactly how they are. But acceptance is the big key, but also presence. So living in the present moment, living in the now, understanding that we can pause, process, and proceed before we take our actions. So developing presence in my life is still an ongoing struggle. I still get caught up in fear of the future. I still get caught up in regretting my past mistakes, or regretting something that happened, or even having trauma, come up in flashbacks and stuff like that. That happens to us. I believe every person in recovery from an active addiction probably could be diagnosed with PTSD. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying we have all lived through really traumatic things, and it does still pop up. And for me, I have to go back to my basics. I have to ask for help from whatever is there, my higher power, which I consider my inner higher self. That's different for everyone, but I have to ask for help. I have to take time. I have to take a moment to breathe. Breathing is so important in my recovery. So today, I think Jessica mentioned that I work for the West Virginia Alliance of Recovery Residences. And that's a new organization that we are basically ensuring that recovery housing, when someone gets out of jail and prison, when somebody gets out of detox, when somebody's at the worst point in their lives, that the recovery home that they go to is going to be well run. Okay, it's going to be safely and ethically run, that there's not going to be any hazards, like the stairs are going to have lights on them, and there's going to be fire extinguishers and smoke alarms and things, just basic safety needs, but also that the program that they go to is going to be recovery focused, and the people there are going to have recovery capital. And what recovery capital means is that they actually have some recovery to draw from, so they have something that they can give away. And that's so important. So it's a systems change. It means that we're encouraging people to hire peers. Peers are people with lived experience in recovery in their own lives. And that they rely on the experience that the peers have, and put them in leadership roles. That's really important, because as we know, when we're in active addiction, we don't want to talk to anybody who's not been there, and that's just the nature of the disease. And so the treatment has to understand that and include that. And I'm a huge advocate for all pathways to recovery. So all of our recovery homes all across the state, many of them, accept medication-assisted treatment. Many of them are specialized. Maybe they deal with, maternity care specifically, or women specifically. They're usually divided by sexes. So the way I got to where I am today is working hard, becoming leadership staff at a recovery program that I'm super proud of, which was Recovery Point Charleston. I still sponsor women there today. doing things like volunteering to be a yoga teacher for recovery programs and things like that. I started out my recovery with service, which is hospitals and institutions service, which is carrying a message that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, can lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. So I carried that message into jails and detoxes and psych wards all throughout my early recovery. And today I'm really grateful for the opportunity to get to continue to carry that message into recovery homes, into, I light into darkness. And it's so important that we step up with service, that we help others, that we share what's been freely given to us. And that's how I've been able to maintain my recovery today. And I'm really, really grateful you gave me the opportunity to share that with everyone.
Jennie, thank you so much for sharing your story. I truly appreciate it. You did a wonderful job, and I am so, so thankful to not only be able to have the opportunity to talk to you today, but to know that I get the opportunity to work with you day in and day out in just various ways. And so I just want to say thank you so much for, again, taking this time and for sharing your story. If anybody has any questions for Jennie, or if you'd like to get in contact with her, please reach out to us on the Great Rivers Facebook page. We can definitely put you in contact with Jennie if you have any questions about WAVAR, or if you're interested in being a part of the Glow Run for Recovery. That is going to take place in September. September is Recovery Awareness Month, and Jennie spearheaded that last year for the first one. And so this is going to be the second annual Glow Run for Recovery that will take place in September. And so if you're interested in either of those things, or if you just want more information from Jennie, please, please, please feel free to reach out to us at Great Rivers, and we will definitely connect you. Thanks again for taking the time to hang out with us today, Jennie, and we look forward to hearing more people's stories as this goes on.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.